This is episode 42 of This Makes Me Happy. Welcome to This Makes Me Happy, a podcast about people and what makes them happy. I'm your host, Bernardo Margulis. I'm a designer, art director, and educator, and I'm the principal of This Makes Me Happy, a design studio where I help my clients with branding and visual communications. I'm very happy to present This Makes Me Happy, the podcast, where each week I chat with a different person about what makes them happy. My guests come from all walks of life, and each of them shares their own personal happy stories. Join us every week for a unique conversation. Hello, today I am very happy to have Brandon Lowry with me. Brandon is the marketing director at Curate, and he is the creator of Philadelphia. Brandon, how you doing?
I'm doing great. Thanks for making time. I know that I've rescheduled on you a couple of times. I appreciate you being flexible and inviting me to have this conversation.
No, and thank you for joining me. Else from the introduction I did, is there anything you want the audience to know about you?
No, I think you covered it. Yeah, I work here in Philadelphia at a tech startup. And then on the side, I've built a few different, blogs or Instagram accounts, really focused around kind of photography and storytelling. So yeah, you pretty much nailed my two main focuses.
So let's get straight to the point. Brandon, what makes you happy?
I love how that's the very first question. That's a very broad, general question. You'd think I would have came prepared to answer that exact question. I think for me, that's actually, I don't know if this is common for others, but that's something that I struggle with on a weekly basis, right? Trying to figure out what is going to make me the happiest. And recently I've been reflecting on that a lot. And what I've noticed is that the times that I'm happiest is when I'm traveling. So when I'm going from city to city, which I frequently travel for work to meet with clients, for speaking opportunities, for some photography things as well. And so I think when it comes to being happy, it always is happening when I'm traveling. And that pretty much means that it's all about new experiences. So getting outside of my comfort zone and experiencing something that I maybe haven't experienced before that makes me uncomfortable and just kind of shakes things up a little bit.
And what about that? Do you experience as getting out of your comfort zone? Do you think makes you happy?
I think it's that thrill of discovery of experiencing something you haven't experienced before, right? I think that when we were really, really young, imagine running. When I think about when I was happiest, right? It's like when I was super young, just running through the woods. Not realizing that all of this has already been discovered and, this has been here for a while and people know where this is, right? Because in a way, I thought that I was kind of discovering all of this new land and I felt really, really free. And, every new patch of grass or tree or animal or bug, everything that was new that I came across, it was like this new discovery and something that, I haven't experienced before. So I just think the idea of stumbling into something that is strange and unique has always been something that's driven me. One example I always give is, in high school, I was never really part of a single clique. I was sort of a jock because I played basketball and that was sort of my main group of friends. But I always loved sort of blending in and sort of considered myself a chameleon. So I'm the type of person that, when I went to school and I saw, the goth kids all wearing black, my first reaction wasn't, oh, that's weird, let me make fun of that or walk away from it. My initial reaction was, oh, that's different and interesting. Like, why are they wearing black? I want to know what that's all about. That's cool. That's different. So I think just in general, I try to approach things in a way that is just more open. And whenever I do kind of stumble upon that new experience, it tends to make me happy.
So can you describe a little bit that sense of curiosity and that sense of discovery? How do you go from curiosity to discovery emotionally or psychologically?
Yeah, how do I get there? I think, and probably photography and storytelling has been one of the biggest assets in sort of, going from curiosity to discovery and experience, because it's given me a way to, tap into different groups or start conversations because I have this camera and I can ask people to take their photo or I can, talk to them about a project I'm working on. So, it's interesting. It's something I've never really thought about, but the reason I started Philadelphia initially, there were a few reasons, but one of the main reasons is because I wanted to have the opportunity to meet a ton of different people across the city and sort of get outside of, my tech bubble. So in general, I think the idea of telling other people's stories and documenting that through photography has definitely made it much easier to go from, oh, that's something that's interesting and something I'm curious about, to, actually experiencing it and learning more about it.
So I'm very curious because you mentioned that you like to travel and you to go new place to place to place, but Philadelphia is so localized and so Philly centric. Is there a difference between curiosity outside of Philly versus curiosity at home?
No, I think the difference. Well, I think in general, I don't want there to be a difference. I would love for my curiosity to be, and my curiosity and happiness to be similar, in Philadelphia. When comparing it to my travels, but I think what happens is when you're in your hometown or home city or state, you tend to get comfortable, and so you lose that sense of curiosity. So I think Philadelphia sort of pushes me to continue to meet other people and explore new areas of the city. But yeah, it's tough to remain that curious and that just curious when you kind of get back into your routine. So I think that's why traveling has been such an amazing thing for me, because it allows me to get outside of that routine, and it sort of puts you in a different mental state where you're traveling. So, you're exploring.
Is there a city also in Philadelphia? Because I'm sure that'll be your first answer. A city that's been particularly interesting to you?
So my older brother lives in Los Angeles, and I think when I go there, it's always interesting because he works in the music industry, which is totally foreign to me, and even just the entertainment industry in general. And yeah, there's a lot of there are a lot of negatives within that industry, but from his group of friends and the people that I've been able to meet through his connections, it's a very genuine and creative group, and they're the economy in Los Angeles is entirely built around creativity. And so I think when I'm in Los Angeles, I'm meeting people that are truly pursuing a creative outlet and a creative passion. So not that isn't happening in Philadelphia, but I think it's happening in a bit of a different way in LA, which makes it really, really exciting to kind of explore.
And you mentioned that sometimes these travels happen for work, or oftentimes they happen for work. Does it make a difference if you're traveling, let's say, to visit your brother, or if you travel for fun, or if you travel for work? Do you still get that experience of discovery and curiosity?
Yeah, absolutely. And, if I am, for instance, let's say I do want to just visit a city and there isn't work involved, I'll typically try to make it work involved, right? So I can end up getting someone to pay for it. So if I am going to a city, I'll typically reach out to, different companies in the area, even larger brands I've worked with in the past, to understand if they're in need of any photography or any content. So if it is for a personal trip, I'm finding ways to tie it back to a creative project. And then on the flip side, if I am traveling, for Curate, for my full-time job, of course, I'm always, extending my stay by a few days and trying to figure out ways to, to basically continue to travel, given that, I'm flying with the company, and, there may be a way to extend my stay a day or two to continue to kind of explore and check out the city.
And what happens if there's an extended period of time you can't travel? Do you get an itch?
Absolutely. I definitely get an itch. And again, I think that's because when I'm traveling, that's when I'm happy and being pushed outside of my comfort zone. So there's definitely an itch. And I guess the last time I went to Las Vegas 2 weekends ago, which was my first weekend in Las Vegas. That was a bit of a different trip. And that was fun, but it was Las Vegas, so it definitely wasn't the type of traveling that I typically do. So yeah, it's been several months since I've gone traveling, but I actually just booked a trip to Nicaragua for the Thanksgiving week, which I'm really excited about.
How come Nicaragua?
That's a great question. In 2010, I guess it was 2008 or 2009. I was looking for summer work in a different country between, I think it was between sophomore and junior year. So I was thinking about working abroad, and I stumbled upon this ranch/hostel in this town called Jaquilo in Nicaragua, where it's just some Americans started it, I think 10 years ago, where it's just a very small hostel, and the whole idea is you go and stay at this hostel It's a very cheap, very cheap rate. And then you also volunteer in the local community that's right next to the hostel. Yeah, ever since I've seen that, saw their website and saw that I could do that type of work on that type of kind of, just, somewhat of a vacation, but also kind of giving back and experiencing a country in a way where I'm actually embedded in the community. I've always wanted to do it. And every year I continued to push it off. But this year I finally pulled the trigger. So I'm really, really excited. Because it's traveling, it's a new experience, but because they're so close to the community, I'm going to get an experience that's even more personal and more kind of embedded.
And do you know what kind of work you're going to be doing there?
No, so they have because unfortunately I don't speak a second language.
That was going to be my next question.
Yeah, there may be some challenges there, but they have. We're actually emailing about this today to figure out what I may be able to do. I may end up teaching a photography class. I can help with, sports and recreation. And then additionally, it kind of works both ways where, you're teaching the community, but then they teach you as well. So all the activities that the locals engage you in is really exciting. So surfing, horseback riding, fishing. I mean, there's so many things that I'm going to be able to, again, learn while I'm there from, people that have been doing it their whole life in a totally different culture and context.
So is this the first time you travel internationally?
No, it's not. I studied abroad my sophomore year of college in Italy, which I stayed in Rome, which was amazing. And I got to travel all over Europe. And then in 2007, I was actually in Peru for a week where we were helping kind of rebuild some homes. So I've traveled internationally a few times, and it's always, again, pushing myself way out of my comfort zone, but it's always been some of the, kind of the most memorable moments of my life.
And how does it feel to travel internationally and not speak the language? Does that create anxiety? Do you embrace it?
It doesn't create anxiety. If anything, it's more, I'm trying to think of the word, because, wherever I've went, the community there typically spoke English. So it really hasn't been a challenge. And I think I take that for granted. If anything, I sort of feel bad, I guess is the right word. Like I almost feel like novice. Like I'm not able to embed myself in the community and have, in-depth conversations and really be a part of it because I don't speak the second language or a second language. So it's something that I'm trying to commit to over the next few years is to learn another language, whether it's Spanish or German. I'm not sure yet.
So would you like to go to Germany at some point?
Yeah. So, and actually I was in Berlin for a week and a half 2 years ago. And that was probably my favorite experience and the favorite city that I've ever visited. I just felt totally in love with it.
What about it? Why Berlin particularly?
So I think like the actual city itself is relatively new, right? So it's super modern. And then you have the outskirts, which are like just super grungy. So you have this like really amazing contrast. For instance, on the kind of the outer skirts, it's just graffiti is everywhere. But it's to a point where it's beautiful because they just stopped trying to control it. And so it's become this like amazing, colorful, open palette for graffiti. And it's just beautiful. So kind of the contrast of those two things. And the lifestyle there is very, very different. People, work to live instead of living to work. A lot of people work 3 days, 4 days a week and, very basic income, and they're not kind of trying to achieve these extreme like capitalistic goals, and everyone is just very, very relaxed and seem very just kind of on the same page about like what they want to achieve in life and what the general kind of goals are, which is happiness for them.
So you want to learn German so you can go back there speaking the language? Possibly. I think that, again, like in Germany, I mean, everyone that I spoke with knew English. So I'm not sure. I just think I need to do a little bit more research and understand like where I could want to travel in the future and where learning that language would be super important and would make it, an even better experience. Because I think in Berlin, without speaking German, I think that I had a great experience. And I don't think, speaking that language would have increased the kind of value of the experience tenfold. But I think in some countries that it probably would. Well, I had this experience. You mentioned that in Berlin they all speak English. When I was a kid, so Spanish is my first language, and I went with my family to Miami, and I was so excited that I was going to practice my English because I was learning English. I'm going to practice it, and I get there, and everyone speaks Spanish at us.
Everyone speaks Spanish, yeah, yeah. So it's one of those things where if I took the time to learn German and I went all the way back to Berlin and was so excited, people, would speak to me in English anyway. So I think that's part of the hesitation there.
Is there anywhere you haven't been that you would love to go?
Oh man, everywhere, everywhere. I mean, Nicaragua has been on the bucket list again since like 2006, 2007, or 2008. So I'm really, really stoked to do that. And I think, once I sort of cross that off the list, it's going to make me even more eager and excited to try other places. I really want to go to Malaysia, which I may actually do over Christmas break. So a few other things in the works for sure. But anywhere that, I want to have these different experiences. So, last Thanksgiving break, I actually went to is it Acadia Park? Yeah, in Maine, which was amazing. And I hiked 3 or 4 days out of the week. I would every night I would come back, go to the hotel, shower, and then go to the local bar and just hang out with the locals and drink all night, and just hear all their stories. And again, it was just this really, really great experience. And so that's very different than the experience I'll have in Nicaragua. So whatever I do next, I want that to be just a different experience.
So do you ever stop and think of the experience of traveling, the fact that you're able to travel and go to all those different places, does that thought ever come to your mind, just, wow, I can do this? Or is it just about the actual travel experience itself?
I think about that frequently. I'm very fortunate to be able to travel. And I think some of it is, I don't want to say frustration, but, I often think like, wow, if everyone in the world could travel as much as I do, I think that there would be a lot more happiness and a lot more love and understanding. While I'm nowhere near, the point where I'm able to sort of help other people travel or really kind of, take people out, that are in certain positions that, financially can't travel or just for certain reasons can't. I can't help them travel yet. But one thing that I try to do is inspire, the audiences that I do have on my social channels, and even my friends to travel, right? Because a lot of the people that do follow my accounts, they can travel and, maybe they're scared to do so, or maybe they just don't realize how easy it is. So part of it is inspiring others. And it's been cool to realize that, by sharing these photos and by telling stories, I've had people text me or reply to photos or conversations and say, I just booked a trip to this area, or wow, I've been meaning to travel for so long and for some reason I just haven't. And seeing your photos and hearing about your trip has made me take that next step. So part of it is definitely inspiration, and that certainly drives me to travel more, and more importantly, to kind of share the stories of my travels to inspire others.
That must feel amazing.
It's incredible, and I think that there's a fine balance, right? We live in a world now where, something like Snapchat, for instance. It's always about me, and like what I'm doing, right? Taking a selfie at a concert. I mean, one thing that always bothers me is seeing someone at a concert and they're, just Snapchatting it the entire time.
How was the concert? I don't know. I just Snapchatted it.
I don't know. Let me go look back at my Snapchat. Yeah. And then, it's not even like you're sharing the experience because the audio is shitty. It's blurry. It's loud. Like there isn't a lot of value that actually comes from that. And so, I do post frequently, but one thing that people probably don't realize is that, I'm a very good storyteller. So for instance, when I'm going on, when I was in Maine and I was hiking and I built a story around one of my hikes, I was really only using Snapchat or my phone for a total of 5 minutes throughout those 4 hours. But again, I'm very good at kind of piecing together those moments to make a very cohesive story. So, and I've been very conscious of that because when I do travel, I want to kind of disconnect and I don't want to be just stuck on my phone and, sort of defeats the purpose. So when I am traveling, I have realized the value of telling these stories. And so I'm very conscious of how I tell that story without letting it kind of consume me. And I don't want that to be the point of the trip. I want the traveling to be about the experience. And then I want the story to kind of be a sort of a result of that experience.
So it sounds like you're very conscious about how you're using social media. It's not just for the sake of posting, it's for telling the story you want to tell.
Exactly.
I want to unpack something that's been, it sounds like it's a common thread through the conversation. You've talked about travel to help others in Nicaragua, travel to help others in Peru, travel, or even with Philadelphia, the inspiration. Is that something that motivates you either to travel or in life, the inspiration and the helping others?
Yeah, 100%. I don't think that I go out of my way to kind of say that I love helping others. I don't know if it comes, I don't necessarily want to say it comes naturally, but yeah, I genuinely get joy out of seeing others happy and seeing others succeed. One of the coolest things about Philadelphia is it's become a community. So initially, I was just sharing my own photos and my own content, and it sort of got to a point where, there was all this context that I was sharing stories from, which, didn't necessarily share the entire viewpoint of the city of Philadelphia, right? The job that I have, the place that I live, the type of food that I eat, the friends that I have, those all build a very specific lens around the stories that I stumble into and the stories that I share, which is okay. But, what's great about it is that I realized that at an early stage. And so what I started to do is actually bring in other people's content. And so now just instead of sharing my photos, I'm, curating other people's photos to make sure that I'm telling, a whole bunch of stories. And what's been amazing about that is, of course, the account has grown much faster because, there's kind of, it's inherently viral because as people are featured, they tell their friends and it draws new followers and new eyeballs. But in general, the fact that I now have this platform where someone can, share artwork, or where I can celebrate an artist, or I can tell someone's story who, needs that story to be told. That's been the most exciting thing for me with Philadelphia. The fact that I can share other people's content, and I think the audience is now around 70,000 people. And so the fact that I have this platform, it's sort of a responsibility now, and it's one that I'm excited to have, and one that I'm, excited to use to celebrate others.
All right, Brendan, I want to move on to the rapid fire section. I have a few questions about different things that make you happy, and I want your gut reaction. Are you ready?
I am ready.
Do you have a happy color?
I'm actually colorblind.
Oh.
So I really like light gray, though. So yeah, maybe light gray.
Light gray, do you have like a 10% or 20%, or just light grays in general?
Just light gray.
Finish the sentence. Happiness means?
Happiness means happiness.
Finish the sentence. I'm happiest with?
Oh man, this is so hard. I'm happiest with new experiences.
Who makes you happy?
My roommate and best friend, Nate.
Where is your happy place?
My happy place is anywhere that I'm lost.
And what is the last thing you remember that made you happy?
The last thing that I remember that made me happy. Man, a lot of things make me happy. So last week, my dad performed live at a bar. He was a musician for a while, and then he stopped playing for about, I think, 10 years. And this fell on some hard times. And last week, for the first time in 10 years, he performed at a bar that he used to play at all the time when he was growing up, when I was like, 1, 2 years old. And there were about 50 people who came out to see him. And I mean, it was amazing. The entire night, people just, dancing, singing, coming up to me saying, "Oh, you have no idea. Every Thursday we'd see your dad play. We'd follow him everywhere." Seeing my dad just play live and being able to kind of take in that moment and hear how how everyone adored him and how amazing his music was and how that impacted others was really awesome.
Oh, that's awesome. And you can't see this, but I'm smiling just hearing it. Sounds like a wonderful experience.
It was very cool.
What kind of music does he play?
I think it's so funny. My brother loves music. I love music, but I'm very bad describing it. I would I would say that his style is sort of Jimmy Buffett-esque. So he does a lot of Jimmy Buffett covers, but he also has a few albums. So it's, I don't know, do you know Jimmy Buffett?
I've heard of him, yeah.
It's sort of like, I mean, he's an amazing guitarist. He plays acoustic guitar, congos. He's actually left-handed, so he actually plays he has a right-handed guitar that he plays upside down and backwards, which is interesting. But so it's very, very like chill rock oriented, I guess.
So if people want to find you, where can we get a hold of you and your projects?
Yeah, so I have Philadelphia. My personal Instagram is at Brendan Lowry, BrendanLowry, and that's sort of serves as a hub for all of the different things that I'm working on, whether it's at Curale, Philadelphia, some of my other photo projects, all my travel stuff. Definitely give me a follow there, and just comment and say hey.
And everyone definitely check out Philadelphia. It's beautiful storytelling, so everyone go on that. And I'll link to those accounts. Brendan, awesome. Thank you very much.
Hey, thank you. I really, really appreciate it. And would love to sync up a year from now and have the same conversation and see what's changed.
Yeah, you know what? If you want to do the follow-up, I'll set up a calendar reminder for myself and I'll shoot you an email in a year.
Let's do it, Bernardo. Great meeting you, man. Thank you.
Thanks, Brendan, for sharing what makes you happy. And thanks, everyone, for listening. A special thanks to Jason Zappolo for editing this episode, to Orly Margulis for helping with social media, and Rocio Castañeda for ongoing support. You can get notes for this episode at thehappypodcast.com/episode 42, and you can learn more about this project, get past episodes, and get in touch with us through thehappypodcast.com. We're in social media. You can find us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at The Happy Podcast, and our latest episodes are on YouTube, youtube.com/thehappypodcast. If you like the show, please go to iTunes and subscribe so you can get weekly updates on your device, and leave us a 5-star review. That's the best way for other people to find us. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next week.